I thought I was just being a good uncle. I encouraged my niece to read, to explore literature, to think for herself. But one book changed everything. A single choice turned into a storm of outrage. My sister was furious. My family was against me. I didn't see the problem until it was too late. Now I'm questioning everything. Was I wrong? Did I cross a line? Or is this just another case of people judging without understanding? You decide. Am I the asshole? Being a hairstylist has its perks. One of them is that my schedule isn't exactly conventional. I often get weekdays off if I work weekends. It's a rhythm I enjoy, and occasionally it works out well for my sister, Sarah. She's a single mom with a demanding job, so every now and then she asks if I can watch her daughter, Lily. I don't mind at all. Lily is 11, bright and well-behaved. She's at that age where she can entertain herself, so watching her never feels like a chore. I don't have kids of my own, nor do I plan to, but being an uncle suits me. When she's over, I let her do whatever she likes. Within reason, of course. She can play games, watch a movie, or read from my bookshelf. She enjoys reading, which I appreciate since I'm a bit of a book snob myself. I take pride in my book collection. Unlike most people who get lost in whatever's trending, my taste leans toward classics, especially Russian literature. I love the complexity, the depth, the way great authors craft unreliable narrators. Many of my favorite books challenge conventional thinking, and I like to believe that's what makes them valuable. Lily has inherited a love for books, though her choices so far have been fairly tame. Tolstoy, some Dickens, a little Kafka. I introduced her to those, and she handled them surprisingly well. So when she came over last week and asked if she could read something from my shelf, I didn't hesitate. "Pick anything you like," I told her. She scanned the titles carefully, running her fingers along the spines. Then, after a moment, she pulled out Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. "Can I read this one?" she asked. Without thinking much about it, I said yes. Books have always been my thing. I was the kid who read under the covers with a flashlight, who got in trouble at school for sneaking novels inside textbooks. Over the years, my taste has refined, or, as some might say, become pretentious. I don't care for mainstream bestsellers or plot-driven fluff. I like books that make you uncomfortable, that challenge the way you think. Lily, in her own way, is a smaller version of me. She's always been a curious kid, one who asks big questions and enjoys stories that make her think. I encouraged that early on, slipping her copies of Anna Karenina and Great Expectations. Most kids her age would balk at those, but Lily took to them with ease. When she finished War and Peace, yes, actually finished it, I knew she wasn't your average 11-year-old reader. That's why when she picked Lolita from my shelf, I didn't flinch. If she could understand Tolstoy's deep dives into human nature, she could handle Nabokov's. I had read it when I was about her age, and I turned out fine. Besides, the book isn't what most people assume it is. It's not a love story. It's not an endorsement of anything. It's a masterpiece about obsession, control, and the dangers of seeing the world through a distorted lens. "Good choice," I said. "Nabokov's writing is beautiful. You'll like it." She sat down on my couch, flipped open the book, and began reading right away. I didn't think much of it. To me, it was just another instance of Lily engaging with literature beyond her years. Lily was completely absorbed in the book. She sat cross-legged on my couch, her small hands gripping the worn paperback as her eyes darted across the pages. I glanced over occasionally, watching her expression shift, sometimes curious, sometimes puzzled, but never disturbed. I figured she was processing the language more than anything. Nabokov's prose is intricate, almost poetic, and English isn't even his first language. If anything, I assumed she'd be more focused on the beauty of his writing than the underlying subject matter. I knew Lolita was controversial, but I also knew that it was often misinterpreted. People who hadn't read it thought it was a romance. It wasn't. It was a tragedy told by an unreliable narrator, a man whose version of events was meant to be questioned, not accepted. At one point, Lily looked up and asked, "Why does he talk about her like that?" I paused. "Because he wants you to see things his way. But if you read carefully, you'll notice the truth underneath." She nodded, turning back to the book. That was the only question she asked. Hours passed and she remained immersed in the story, flipping pages steadily. By the time she looked up again, the sun had started to set. "This is really good," she said. "It's different from anything I've read before." I smiled. Nabokov has that effect. Before she left, she hesitated, holding the book close. "Can I borrow it?" "Of course," I said. "Just take care of it." She thanked me, tucked the book into her bag and left. I didn't think twice about it. The next few days passed without incident. I barely thought about the book until I saw Lily again. She walked into my place, book in hand, already halfway through it. "I love the way he writes," she told me as she settled onto the couch. "It's like every sentence is perfect." I nodded, pleased. Yeah, Nabokov has a way with words. Even when the story is dark, the writing is beautiful. She agreed enthusiastically, flipping through the pages to find a passage she liked. She read it aloud, emphasizing the rhythm of the sentences. I could tell she wasn't just absorbing the story, she was appreciating the craftsmanship behind it. That made me proud. "Some parts are weird though," she admitted. "Yeah," I said, leaning back. "But what do you think about it?" She thought for a moment. "I don't like him. The guy telling the story. He thinks he's the victim, but he's not." I smiled. "Exactly. That's what makes the book brilliant." She nodded, looking satisfied with her own interpretation. We spent the next hour talking about the novel, about unreliable narrators and the difference between what a character says and what the author actually means. It was the kind of conversation I wished more people were capable of having about Lolita, free from knee-jerk reactions, focused instead on the writing itself. By the time she had to leave, she was excited to finish the book. I told her to take her time with it. Literature, after all, was meant to be savored. Later that evening, my phone rang. It was Sarah. The moment I answered, I could tell something was off. Her tone was sharp, tight with anger. "Are you serious?" she snapped. "You let Lily read Lolita." I blinked, caught off guard. "Yeah?" She picked it herself. "She's 11!" Sarah's voice rose. "Do you even know what that book is about?" I sighed, already seeing where this was going. "Of course I do. It's one of the greatest novels ever written." Sarah wasn't having it. "It's about a pedophile, Alex." I ran a hand through my hair. "It's about way more than that. It's a critique of that kind of thinking. It's not like the book endorses anything. The narrator is unreliable." "I don't care about the narrator." She cut me off. "She's a child. Why would you think that's okay?" I tried to keep my voice level. "Because she's smart enough to understand it. It's not like I handed her something exploitative. It's literature." Sarah let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, right. Literature. That makes it fine then." I clenched my jaw. "Sarah, she's read Tolstoy, for God's sake. She can handle complex themes." "You're not her parent," she snapped. "You don't get to make that decision." That stung more than I expected. Before I could say anything else, she let out a frustrated breath. "I can't believe you, Alex." This was so irresponsible. And then she hung up. I stood there, gripping my phone, my mind racing. I didn't think I'd done anything wrong, but for the first time I wondered if I had miscalculated. I sat on my couch, staring at my phone, still processing Sarah's anger. I hadn't expected this level of outrage. Sure, Lolita was a controversial book, but that didn't mean it was harmful. If anything, it was an important novel that exposed the dangers of manipulation. I wasn't about to let this go unanswered. I called Sarah back. She picked up, her voice still tense. "What? I just don't get why you're so mad," I said, keeping my tone calm. "It's not like I gave her something inappropriate. Lolita isn't pornographic. It's a critique." "It doesn't matter, Alex," she shot back. "You're acting like she's in some advanced literature course. She's a kid. She doesn't need to be reading about this kind of thing." I shook my head. "She understood War and Peace just fine. You've always been proud of how smart she is. Why are you treating her like she can't handle complex books now?" Sarah let out a sharp breath. "Because it's different. It's not just about complexity, it's about subject matter. Just because she can read something doesn't mean she should." "She didn't even react badly to it," I argued. "She got the point of the book. She told me herself that the narrator was a horrible person." "That doesn't mean she's ready for it." Sarah was exasperated now. "She's 11, Alex. Her brain doesn't work like yours. You might see it as a literary masterpiece, but she's still forming her understanding of the world. You don't get to decide what she's exposed to. That line hit me. I had always encouraged Lily's reading choices, never thinking twice about what she picked up. But was I overstepping? Sarah sighed, her tone a little softer now. Look, I know you meant well, but this was a mistake. I clenched my jaw. I don't think it was. She was silent for a moment. Then, with finality, she said, I don't want her reading that book anymore. End of discussion. And just like that, the call was over. I didn't think Sarah would let this go, but I also didn't expect her to bring the rest of the family into it. Yet by the next day, my phone was flooded with texts from my mom, our aunt, and even my cousin. Why would you give Lily something like that? Sarah's really upset. You should apologize. Not your kid, not your choice. It was exhausting. I had barely even had time to process my own thoughts, and now I was on trial. I called my mom, hoping she'd at least listen. Alex, she sighed as soon as she picked up. What were you thinking? I rubbed my temples. Mom, it's a book, a classic. It's not like I gave her something explicit. Mom hesitated. I know it's literature, but that's not the point. Sarah feels like you overstepped. She's acting like I put Lily in danger. She's acting like a mother, Mom corrected, and you should respect that. I groaned. But Lily liked the book. She understood it. Shouldn't that count for something? It doesn't matter, Mom said firmly. Sarah is the parent. She decides what's appropriate, not you. That was the part that stung the most. I had always seen myself as someone who encouraged Lily's intelligence, who helped her grow. But now everyone was making it clear, I wasn't her parent. My opinion didn't hold the same weight. Alex, just apologize, Mom said. It's not worth this fight. I hung up feeling more conflicted than ever. Days passed, but the tension didn't ease. If anything, it got worse. Sarah refused to answer my calls, and whenever I texted, I'd get short, clipped responses. Lily didn't come over that week like she usually did, and I couldn't help but wonder if that was intentional. I was frustrated. It wasn't just about the book anymore. It was about control. Sarah was making it clear that she had the final say in Lily's life, and my input, no matter how well-intentioned, didn't matter. I debated whether I should just apologize and move on, but something about that felt wrong. I wasn't sorry for letting Lily read Lolita. I was sorry that Sarah was angry, sure, but that wasn't the same thing. If I apologized, it would mean admitting I had done something wrong, and I didn't think I had. Still, I didn't want to keep fighting. I figured I needed to hear Lily's perspective one more time, without Sarah in the middle. So I waited until I knew she'd be home from school and called her directly. She answered on the second ring. Uncle Alex? Hey, kiddo, I said. Just wanted to check in. Everything okay? There was a pause. Then she sighed. Mom's really mad. Yeah, I said. I got that. Another pause. Then quieter, she asked, did I do something wrong? That question hit me harder than I expected. No, I said firmly. You didn't. You read a book, that's all. But I liked it, she admitted, and now I feel bad. I clenched my jaw. This was exactly why I hated the way Sarah had handled it. She was making Lily feel guilty for something she had genuinely enjoyed. Lily, you're allowed to like books, I told her, even complicated ones, even ones that make people uncomfortable. Mom says I shouldn't have read it. That's her opinion, I said carefully, but I think you're smart enough to decide what interests you. She didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, she sounded hesitant. I don't want to get in trouble. I exhaled slowly. You're not in trouble with me. Okay, she said. I have to go. Mom's home. And then the line went dead. That conversation with Lily stuck with me. It wasn't just what she said, it was the way she said it. She liked the book, but now she felt guilty about it. Not because of what she had read, but because of how her mom had reacted. I needed to talk to her in person. So the next time I knew Sarah would be at work, I stopped by their house. Lily answered the door, looking surprised but not unhappy to see me. Hey kid, I said, can we talk? She hesitated, then nodded and stepped aside. We sat on the couch, and I got straight to the point. I need to know what you think, I told her. Not what your mom thinks, not what I think, just you. Did Lolita make you uncomfortable? Lily bit her lip, thinking. Some parts, yeah, she admitted, but I didn't like those parts. I understood them. I nodded, relieved. And do you think you weren't ready for it? She shook her head. No, I mean it was different from what I usually read, but I liked the way he wrote. And I knew the narrator was lying to himself. It's not like I thought he was a good person. That was exactly what I had hoped she would say. Then you didn't do anything wrong, I assured her. And neither did I. Lily still looked uncertain. Mum says I shouldn't have read it. I sighed. Your mum is just trying to protect you, but you're a smart kid. You can handle tough books. She looked down at her hands. I just don't want her to be mad at me. That was the part I couldn't fix. No matter how much I believed in Lily's ability to think critically, Sarah had made her feel like she had done something wrong. And now she was caught in the middle. I get it, I said softly, and I don't want you to be in the middle of this. But I want you to know that I respect you, and your thoughts matter. She gave me a small, appreciative smile. Thanks, Uncle Alex. I left feeling more confident that I hadn't misjudged Lily's readiness for the book. But it didn't change the fact that in Sarah's eyes, I had crossed a line. Even after talking to Lily, the tension with Sarah didn't go away. She still wasn't answering my calls, and I had the distinct feeling I wouldn't be babysitting anytime soon. I replayed everything in my head. I hadn't forced the book on Lily. She chose it. She wasn't disturbed by it. She understood it. She even enjoyed it. And yet somehow I was the bad guy. I understood that Sarah had a right to decide what her daughter was exposed to, but at the same time, I felt like she was underestimating Lily. She had raised an intelligent, thoughtful kid. Shouldn't that count for something? The whole situation left me torn. On one hand, I didn't believe in censoring books, especially not for someone as mature as Lily. On the other hand, I had to acknowledge that Sarah was the parent. Maybe I should have checked with her first. Maybe I had overstepped, but was it really that bad? Was I wrong to trust Lily's judgment? Was I irresponsible for letting her read a book I genuinely believed she could handle? I don't know. So I'll ask you all, was I the asshole for letting my niece read Lolita?